Welcome to the Reviews Without Remorse podcast with Joe and Dave. Be warned, the discussions in this podcast will contain detailed spoilers. For spoiler-free reviews of newly released films, please check out our channel Reviews Without Remorse on YouTube and VidMe. Enter at your own risk and enjoy the show. Welcome to episode number 21 of Reviews Without Remorse. I am, as always, your good buddy Joe with my partner Dave. What's up, Dave?
Blackjack, dude, blackjack. Double down. You gotta double down, Mikey.
I'm telling you, baby, you always double down a little.
Yeah, well, obviously not always.
Always, baby.
I'm just saying not in this particular case.
You always double down.
I lost, okay?
On today's episode, Dave and I will touch on some craziness with the Han Solo movie, the Venom movie, and then quickly move on. Dave would like to talk about the Gremlins movies, which he and his son have kind of rediscovered, so we'll discuss that. I saw Kong Skull Island finally this weekend. I will give you my thoughts. And then this episode is going to be pretty cool. We're going to talk about Spider-Man Homecoming. And why is this episode so cool? Well, this episode is kind of, sort of, what we've been sort of working towards and planning all along, where we actually see a film, a new release. Dave and I shoot a short video with our preliminary thoughts, and then we do a podcast where we flesh out our thoughts even further. Dave and I finally just finished shooting a video where we discussed Spider-Man Homecoming. So if you want to see how handsome the two of us actually are, brace yourselves, ladies. You can check out our video.
He's the handsome one.
Please. Maybe back in our 20s. Let's. But we will... Hopefully, I got my fingers crossed that this video will be available when you hear this, so check out the video and you will see what our format is going to look like going forward, hopefully.
And improving, because, you know, we did, I thought we did well, dude. I don't have any complaints. I think, you know, we had a handful of technical issues and we might have one or two things that we have to work out. I feel still I have to work on my lighting, but I don't know. I thought it worked.
Yeah, I think so too. I'm learning that my apartment is even smaller than I thought it was. But yeah, I'm finding that's a little bit of an issue. But yeah, I mean, fingers crossed. We still got some editing to do, and we'll find out how it all worked out. But I thought it was okay. I mean, at worst, it'll be about as rusty as our first podcast was. So hopefully we've come a little bit since then, and so will our videos.
But on to news.
Some crazy news happening this week, which I'm basically going to throw my arms up and say, hey, look, if you know something about this, you want to throw in, be my guest. But I'll tell you what, there are two movies that are getting thrown around, and there is just nothing but nonsense about both of them. The first one is Han Solo. I'm hearing that not only did the two directors get fired, not only is this thing just a complete shambles, they actually had to hire an acting coach for the lead in the film. And this is really late in the game, so I don't have high hopes for that film. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe Lucasfilm has got a tight rein on it, and maybe when things weren't going perfectly, they stepped in. Maybe that in itself is a positive. Maybe I'm looking at it wrong. But boy, does this sound like just a hot mess.
I believe the word you're looking for is poop show.
Right? Oh my God, this is crazy. I mean, this is a $1 billion franchise, and it's in shambles over there.
I gotta be honest with you. I'm kind of feeling like you're feeling, which is that we should just sit back and just let it fall, because right now it's too easy right now to play Monday morning quarterback. It's so easy when you're in the middle of when they're in the middle of shooting and you have no idea exactly what's going on. It's very easy to sit there and say, this is a disaster, and so on and so forth. But we don't know anything, you know, so I'm going to just say, why don't we just take a step back and try not to let this stuff taint us, because that's what's happening, is it's tainting us, and just, you know, wait. Let's just wait.
I agree. And, you know, it's funny, you know, we were talking about this before, and you had made the case, or that we don't need a Han Solo movie. That
I'm still agreeing with that, yes.
Yeah, and it's funny too, and I was the one who was sort of pitching for it. Not pitching for it hard, but I just felt like this is something they can do. I mean, I don't see any reason why not. I did sort of have a flashback though. It's funny. When Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade came out, I railed against that whole opening thing. I hated that whole thing with River Phoenix. And It was like the origin of Indiana Jones. Mm-hmm. Wow, did I hate that? And I said it took all the mystery out of that character, and in a chumpy way too. I mean, the fact that everything that we know about Indiana Jones happened within 10 minutes, just awful, just terrible. And it's funny. And again, so I'm saying to myself, why am I so open to the Han Solo movie when I saw it happen to Indiana Jones and hated it?
I actually, dude, that's a very good question. Can you explain yourself?
Well, I do feel that this is different. I mean, if they, put it this way, if they reboot Indiana Jones, which surely they will, at some point anyway, the chances are that they might do like young Indiana Jones, kind of what they've done before in different incarnations too, by the way. But that would be a way to go. And I'd probably be okay with that. And I kind of feel like this is kind of the same way where we're going to do young Han Solo. Put it this way, they have a 2-hour film to give us a fleshed out, coherent story, as opposed to doing it in like a 10-minute little jokey thing in the beginning of Last Crusade. Mm-hmm. I think this is the way to do it if you're going to do it. But then again, that's before I heard about all the shenanigans going on over there.
And now it's giving you flashbacks, isn't it? Now,
right, seriously.
Now, all those years where you and I had these arguments where I was like, you know what, dude, it wasn't all that bad. And you're like, no, it's a travesty because it explains his entire origin in 10 minutes. It's like, oh, it's just cute and fun. And it's funny. Now we're on the other side of this train here. It's I kind of like it.
Well, yeah, I guess. I mean, like I said, I don't know. Like I said, I'm very open to. See, Star Wars is sort of an interesting animal because it not only is it's more than just a science fiction story about a few people. I mean, they do create an entire universe where you could. I mean, that is a big sandbox to play in. So my thought is there are other stories to be told in that universe, and I have zero problem with it. In fact, I think it's an excellent, a fascinating way to expand on the existing Star Wars universe. So I don't mind these different stories. I would love to see a Ben Kenobi movie, a Han Solo movie. I liked Rogue One. I loved Rogue One. I thought Rogue One was really underrated and didn't understand why some people didn't appreciate it the way I did. Like I said, it's interesting. We'll see what happens with it. I frankly feel like there's not much more to say about it until we sort of know what's going on with this. And
not until when the first trailer comes out, I think we'll have a little more to go on.
Right.
Until then, we're just kind of pissing into the wind, frankly.
The other one that is just a weird hot mess is Venom. And the more I hear about this, I mean, the last thing I heard is that they're saying the Venom film is going to be a comedy. And I'm like, what the hell are these people doing over there? I mean, no one knows what the heck is going on. They got a villain without a hero. They got a lead to play it, and they don't know what I mean, Tom Hardy is the lead of this film.
Wait, Tom Hardy is Venom?
Tom Hardy has signed on to play Venom, and this has already been a couple of weeks. But if you're Tom Hardy, you must be saying to yourself, "Oh my God, what did I get myself into?"
Yeah.
And I mean, they have no clue what is going on. Every week is a different story about this movie. Is it in the same universe as Spider-Man? Is it not in the same universe? Is he going to be in it? Is he not? And every week is a different story. And I'm saying to myself, going back to that interview with Kevin Feige and Amy Pascal, what was the point of that interview? I mean, I didn't watch the whole thing, but when you look at that and you walk away with this kind of like, wait, what? Who said what? And you, to this day, you don't know what the actual answer. I don't know what the point of that interview was. I mean, obviously, what we got was nonsense. What were they actually there to say? What was Kevin Feige there to say?
I think they were just there to talk about. I think it was just a Q&A session with the people involved with Spider-Man Homecoming, and an interviewer asked them the question. That's where that came from.
These are two properties that I feel like the behind the scenes is probably going to be more interesting than the movie itself.
But there are a few things to keep in mind. If you expose it to the light, you may hurt it. If you get it wet, it will multiply.
All that from water? They got wet?
Yeah, plain water.
And most important, no matter how much they beg, never, never let them eat after midnight.
My friend, tell me something about the Gremlins.
Ah, the Gremlins. So, my kid has decided, and hi Liam if you're listening, my kid has decided he's finally ready to watch the Gremlins movies. So he did, because it was on Netflix. So, ladies and gentlemen, if you're looking for it, it's on Netflix. And he loved it. So, as a favor to him, I told him that I would give my personal review of Gremlins and to a lesser extent, Gremlins 2, the next batch. The first Gremlins was a lightning rod. It is the reason why we have PG-13. That and Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom are the reason why we have a PG-13 rating now.
Right, yep, I remember.
Okay, so there's one little bit of history. But, I mean, let's face it, it's a silly flick. It's like, he can't eat after midnight. It's after midnight somewhere, everywhere. How do they have their biological clocks? There's so many questions you could possibly ask. Yeah. But you know what? It's just, it was directed by Joe Dante with love, like a 50s style creeper movie.
Agreed.
And it worked. He had this adorable lead. You had, this great cast. Heck, even Phoebe Cates got to shine in that one scene when she's talking about her dad down the frickin' fireplace. God, Uh-huh. And then you have Gremlins, excellent movie, by the way, 8 out of 10 easily for me. Then you have Gremlins 2, the next batch, which knowingly made fun of Gremlins 1. And for the time, how gutsy was that to do? Yeah. It's like, we're still here to have fun, but you know what? We know some things are ridiculous, and that's okay. Down to Phoebe Cates having to give the speech about Lincoln's birthday instead.
I totally agree with you. I think Gremlins 2 is a really underrated film because they really, again, they took what happened in the first one. Somebody said we need more of it, and instead of just doing the same thing twice, they did it with such style, with so much a sense of fun. Yes. You're right. It's very self-aware. Cameos galore.
Oh yeah, tell me about it. Christopher Lee, Hulk Hogan, just to name two off the top of my head. I give that one an 8. It's one of those rare ones where the sequel, I feel, is on par with the original.
Yeah, and on par, and I think it even surpasses it on some levels. Again, the originality is not quite there, but they take it to a different level. It's purely entertaining.
Is that a monkey?
Finally saw Kong Skull Island this weekend. I was actually going to see this in the theater when it came out, and the reviews were mixed at best and leaning towards not so good.
Right.
I saw it this weekend, and frankly, I loved it. I thought it was really good. I'm very surprised that this one got panned the way it did. I felt like, again, this to me was purely, it's there for fun. The motivations are a little too on the nose. But as far as just an old-fashioned monster movie,
which is what it was, an old-fashioned monster movie.
Yeah, I thought it was terrific. I thought, I didn't really, I was expecting another Mummy, frankly. Like everything everybody said about the Mummy, I thought was going to happen with this one. I didn't find it to be that at all, though. I didn't find any world building, not until the very end, the post credits. In which case, they made that very obvious, but they saved it way till the end. They didn't retread. I like this, I think, even better than the Peter Jackson King Kong, believe it or not.
My son said the same thing, believe it or not.
I thought that was fine. I thought that was a fine retelling of the original. That was more of a tribute to the original. But even then, I thought, like with that one, the effects were a little over the top. Like the scenes where the guys are running through the jungle and through like a herd of dinosaurs, and the dinosaurs are just missing them by inches every single step. Like that to me was, again, that's where it starts to get silly, and it starts to. Here, I thought everything looked pretty good. The effects were spot on. I was really amazed how good the special effects were. There were no at no point did I say I had no problem with the CGI whatsoever. I thought they really nailed it, frankly. There was nothing I thought looked corny. Remember like in the old days when they would do models and they would put like a boat in the water and you could always tell it was a model because the water looked gigantic or whatever.
Yeah.
I like here I noticed like when King Kong grabs a handful of water, it looks like a gigantic handful of a ton of water. Like, I mean, again, the thought was there. They really put a lot of thought and care into this film. So again, I don't know why it got bagged on. I mean, for a popcorn film, I didn't think it took itself too seriously. Again, like I know that I didn't see The Mummy yet, but everything they say about it, it's all world building. It takes itself way too seriously. It's trying to be everything. It's action. It's horror. Whatever. I mean, that again, you can't make a summer blockbuster out of classic horror films. I don't think. But again, King Kong, Godzilla, very different. That is a summer blockbuster. That is an over-the-top special effects extravaganza, and that's exactly what you got. And like I said, the characters in it were likable. I thought it was terrific. So, I mean, again, it's not Citizen Kane.
It's not meant to be.
A damn fun popcorn movie.
I also enjoyed it. So it's fun. It's not, every once in a while, ladies and gentlemen, you have to go to a movie and say, it's okay that it doesn't pique my intellectual curiosity. Just entertain me. And it was entertaining.
Whoa. Your friend there can put that down. What the hell is this place?
That's Kong. He's king around here. Kong's pretty good king. Keeps to himself mostly. Well, you don't go into someone's house and start dropping bombs unless you're picking a fight.
I'm really glad you enjoyed it, actually. I'm very, very glad you enjoyed it because I did see it and I thought, you know what? This isn't as bad as I thought it was going to be. I'm actually enjoying myself. And I kind of felt like, this is going to be the movie that Joe really busts my balls on. And wouldn't you know it? Wouldn't you know it?
What's up, guys? Wait a minute. You guys aren't the real Avengers. I can tell Hulk gives it away. Oh, that was awesome.
All right, Spider-Man Homecoming. Again, we gave some preliminary thoughts in our video, but we will definitely go through it again, talk about everything much more in depth here. So who wants to go first? Do we want to do it the old-fashioned way where you talk about what you don't like first?
I gotta be honest with you, it took me a lot to try to think of anything I didn't like about this movie. I seriously, when I got out, after I got out of the theater, I took my kid home and all that other stuff, and I sat there, and I like to sit and write my notes not that long after I've seen the movie, and I get my for-your consideration out of the way, and I try to work on my first issue. I had the worst time coming up with a Who Asked You.
Yeah, me too. And frankly, I got a hunch you and I are probably going to think of the same thing for that. So why don't we hold off? Let's kind of do non-spoiler first, and then we'll get into spoilers.
Okay.
Because I feel like this one is so fresh that people maybe have not seen it yet. So
yeah, the movie was. I mean, let's just call it what it is. It was a triumph and a validation of what fans have been saying for years. We've been saying, give the property back to Marvel. They'll know what to do with it. This is absolutely a testament to Kevin Feige and his dedication and love of the Marvel characters, that somebody really, really, I mean, is it 100% comic accurate? No, but the soul of the character is so there that all the little changes they made to have to try to fit into the universe with Marvel and stuff like that now, you can forgive because it's that well done.
Yeah, I agree with you. Again, I had reservations going in. Not reservations, because again, I completely agree with everyone who says we've seen the origin twice in 15 years. You can't do it again. Mm-hmm. So just leave it alone. And again, Spider-Man was already sort of coming in through the side door into the Marvel Universe. So to just do him as an origin story wouldn't have worked. It would have been fatigue. Everybody would have said, no, it's too much, whatever. And again, I had a feeling that being freed up from having to tell the origin story would give them a lot of freedom to tell a great story. Even to that, they did better than I thought they would do. They took that freedom and told a great story, and they flourished, and they were allowed to spread their wings, pun intended. Again, they really did a great job with it. You're right. The tone was just right. And I tell you, and I love how, again, in incarnations we've seen before, Peter Parker gets bitten by a radioactive spider, and in the next scene, he's swinging from the tallest skyscrapers in Manhattan. Here, everything is much more down to earth. He's on the top of the buildings of Queens, which are not, just a couple stories. And I love that. I thought that it made it so much, the fact that it was much more grounded, literally, made it more believable. It made it more, again, I don't think that Spider-Man hangs out at the top of the Empire State Building all the time. I think he's a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. So I thought that was very true to the comics. I liked how he got along with people. The shots of him interacting with the people in the neighborhood were terrific. Well done. I thought the whole thing, you're right, the tone was great. The cast was awesome. Keaton hits a home run for sure. Nobody's surprised with that.
No, not at all. Well, maybe 10 years ago I would have been a little surprised, but nowadays, not so much.
You know, and again, he's a guy, his whole career, he surprises people. Go back to Batman. Everybody thought it was going to be terrible. Today, some people think he's still the quintessential Batman. Happy Hogan was awesome. Jon Favreau is the funniest. I swear, he is hysterical. Every time he opens his mouth, I'm laughing. He was great.
Because he's giving poor Peter crap throughout the entire movie. You almost got to feel bad for him.
Right? Oh, my God. It was terrific. There's just enough Iron Man. I was bellyaching podcasts before saying that they really hyped it up in the marketing that this was going to be like a Spider-Man, Iron Man pair up, and it wasn't, thankfully. A lot of marketing steered us in that direction. I don't know why, but no, he was in there just enough. And I tell you, I really like how he played this too, by the way, because again, it's funny. On one hand, he's kind of like, kid, don't bother me. Come back later, just go do your thing, don't bother me. On the other hand, you see hints of him trying very hard to be fatherly. And again, you know that Tony Stark always had father issues. His father wasn't exactly there for pep talks when he was younger. And you see him trying to do that for Peter, which I thought was really cool.
Yeah.
Again, not
sometimes
just
sometimes seeming a little insincere, but very in character for Tony Stark.
All of these films. How hard was I going off about how great Civil War was, not just because of the stuff on the surface, but every character had an arc already, and this played off of that arc. And I thought, again, here, you got Iron Man, who is on the surface, he's just, run along, kid, you bother me, but still with that touch of trying to be a mentor. And again, he didn't have it, so he wants to do it now. And how familiar is that in real life, again, another home run. Just loved it.
In so many ways. Then you had Marissa Tomei. I mean, she didn't have a lot to do in the movie, but she still managed. Although I have to ask, who was her costumer? They need to be shot. What was with those pants? Those things that were like halfway up to her navel, like she was a 50-year-old man retired in Florida.
I don't know. I didn't really notice it too much.
I noticed. I've kind of always been a fan of Marissa Tomei. I've kind of always hoped that maybe someday Marissa and I can finally have that getaway together. What's that? Oh, I have a restraining order? Shit. Okay. And I thought it was like, weird outfit choices. You had, oh my God, just the kid who played Ned was freaking awesome too. Let's give that kid who played Ned.
Can I be the guy in the chair? The guy in the chair who does the stuff, and then later on, there he is being the guy in the chair. Is like, how great was that? Yeah, no, he was a home run. Here's a question: was he? I thought I remember hearing leading up to this that he seemed to be based off of somebody in the comics. Now I'm hearing not so much.
Ned Leeds. No, still, I think they're still basing him off of Ned Leeds.
Was he from the Ultimate Spider-Man and not so much the earlier?
No. He was from regular Spider-Man. He was in the original Spider-Man comic books. Ned Leeds was a journalist, and he was married to Betty Brant, and he was murdered investigating something in Germany, and his body was found by Spider-Man and Wolverine.
Oh, okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, no, there's a lot more to him than I'm letting on. There was a time where it looked like Ned Leeds was actually the Hobgoblin, but, it turned out that wasn't true. There's a deep history with him, though. Leeds, you had Ned Leeds and you had Ben Urich, who were like the lead investigators to try to find out who Spider-Man was.
Okay.
That's the story.
Okay.
So
interesting.
So they changed it just slightly. They changed it just slightly, but I'm okay with it. It's okay. I mean, they made a lot of changes that I kind of feel would be questionable, but in the context of the universe that they built, it worked.
Agreed. Yeah, I think most of them worked anyway. And it's funny that you mentioned that he was married to Betty Brant because I thought it was cute that they gave her. She was in this.
A little cameo. Yeah.
There was a part of me that was kind of like, all right, that makes the world a little small, but okay. I don't know. I doubt that they went to school together, but it was cute. It was a cute little nod.
Oh God, dude, do you realize how many villains? You know what? Here's the funny thing about it. Do you have any idea just how many villains were actually in this movie? How many classic Spider-Man villains?
I've heard, but and some of them are. Is that spoilers? Should we just say, okay, look, that we love the movie. Now we might get into some spoilers. If you haven't seen it, go see it.
Yes, absolutely.
Highly recommend you go see it.
Whoa, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. This is the greatest day of my life. There's Captain America. Whoa, who's that new guy? On the roof. Gotta go. I can keep the suit?
Of course. Doesn't fit me.
Hey guys, what's up? You forget your PIN number? Wait a minute. You guys aren't the real Avengers. I can tell Hulk gives it away.
You had both incarnations of the Shocker. You had the Tinkerer. You had Toombs, a.k.a. the Vulture, and I don't know if you realized it, but that was Matt Gargan. Matt Gargan is the Scorpion.
I did hear that one. I didn't notice it. The Shocker I saw. What I didn't know, I didn't realize that there were two incarnations, and I didn't know that was both. And I did know that there was a villain, the Shocker, and I got that. I mean, the sleeves and everything was pretty cool. It was pretty dead on. So I didn't know that there was two incarnations, but that's interesting that you say that. And I did.
And technically speaking, go ahead.
I did know about the Scorpion too, and I thought that was an interesting one too.
That's gonna. I hope that's part of the sequel. My son is very excited to see the Scorpion on screen.
Nice.
And the last one was the Prowler. Aaron Davis was in the movie. He's another villain from. I mean, I swear to you, when I started counting them, I'm realizing, the stigma has always been if you put in too many villains, your movie's going to lose. It didn't lose.
Right. Right. If you try to give all of them equal time, then it screws up. No, this one had one clear villain, and this was handled much better. It wasn't like this villain plus this villain teams up against, but no, there was a clear villain in this one, and that's why it works.
Indeed.
What did you think of the costume? I had mixed feelings about the Stark tech in the Spider-Man costume.
It could have looked worse.
Yeah, I'll tell you one thing I did like. I like the idea that now they have a reason to do the animation in the eyes. Because again, I always thought that it was sort of a cheat in the comics whenever they would draw very expressive eyes on the Spider-Man costume. Because again, that's right. Supposed to be a costume that is stationary. So I always felt like it was a bit of a cheat. Here, it was clever, and I like that part of it. Makes perfect sense. It's as a storytelling tool. It's a way to get him a little more expressive when he is Spider-Man.
Without having to resort to taking off the mask every 5 seconds.
Exactly, right, exactly. Having said that, go ahead, because it is weird having him in like Stark tech for a costume.
Google Iron Spider-Man and look at the original design that was done in the comic that Tony Stark did. Trust me, it could have been worse. I think that I'm with you a little bit. I'm not completely on board with an entire super suit that's enhanced. I mean, even though the AI, I don't have any complaints about Karen, the AI, or anything like that. I thought, the idea behind it made sense for Stark to include something like that. And it made sense as a storytelling means, and that's fine. But I don't want them to Iron Man Spider-Man too much. I'd like it if now, like, he takes what he learns from the suit, between him and Ned, working on the suit together and figuring out, when they took off the training wheels protocol, I'd like it that he makes it his own. That would be really, really awesome for me if they did that. I think in a weird way they kind of needed Tony because they had established the two of them had met and everything like that, blah, 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 and he gave him the Stark tech. I'd like it to be now between him and Ned, they figure out and kind of like pair off and do their own thing and make their own suit as opposed to the Stark tech one. But on the other side of the coin, where would he get the money for that type of stuff? Having Stark make it resolves a lot of the problems. Do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I thought so. Yeah, I agree with that. I did think it was, even when I saw the trailers and I saw, the first trailer where you saw the full-blown costume and it lit up and you went, oh my God, this is great.
Good evening, Peter. Whoa. You have 576 possible web shooter combinations.
That is awesome.
Yeah, I was mixed on it because, again, that to me is a little different than Spider-Man. I'm used to Spider-Man sitting home with a needle and thread making his costume, but it worked for what it was. It was interesting. And the fact that it actually did have AI that he could talk to as a storytelling technique, it worked pretty well because now he has somebody to actually talk to instead of like just narration or just talking to himself. And it worked, and it was clever. It provided some cute moments, some funny moments. So I thought it pretty much worked as a storytelling device.
Mm-hmm.
I hope it doesn't become like a big overreaching theme in the future. Like once is enough. And
I don't think they need to harp on the suit anymore. I think they've made their point.
Yeah.
Is it like the best Spider-Man suit ever done in film? I'm not going to say yes. I just hope it doesn't become, I hope that the suit doesn't become more than the character. But since the entire plot of this movie was about the fact that his character is more important than the suit, I'm kind of hoping that they've already heeded that advice. We can only hope. I'm not gonna, there's not a heck of a lot to complain about. There's things to be worried about, but since we don't know where it's going just yet, I'm almost willing to give it a little bit of slack. Not a lot, because I feel like you have to judge a movie as it is, as opposed to what it's going to become once the rest of the movies make it clear.
Right. Yeah.
Because we've complained about that type of world building before.
Sure.
So as is in the context of things, it works fine. In the future, we're a little leery, but, we'll have to just see how they handle it in the future. The only other main elephant in the room is MJ. We touched on it briefly in the video podcast. And I think we need to discuss it a little bit further.
Yeah, I agree. I tell you, that was probably the only thing about the film that I thought kind of, and again, I'm talking about a film that was excellent. Here's a part that was just okay. In the big scheme of things, it landed with a little bit of a thud. Yeah, when she says, oh, my friends call me MJ, and again, it was awkward because, again, they'd been calling her Michelle throughout the entire film. It's not like we're just meeting this person. Then suddenly, for some reason, we're going to have a meeting. Oh, Michelle, you're going to do this. Oh, great. Now suddenly, oh, my friends call me MJ. Well, where'd that come from?
Not to mention the fact, who the hell are your friends then?
Right. Seriously. I thought you had no...
Aren't these people your friends?
That was right. That was the whole payoff. She says, my friends, I thought you had no friends. She goes, well, I didn't. Meaning now she has friends. Great. But then who were the ones that were calling you MJ? Or did you just make that up? Yeah, it was odd. And again, I don't know what it means for the future because, on the surface, it seems like the big reveal and now she's Mary Jane. But again, her name is not Mary Jane.
Michelle Jones?
Who knows? We've already decided that this film is going to take liberties with this character. It's a modernized version. Every time you redo a classic character, you have to make it for modern day audiences. So I thought the look of, again, now Flash Thompson is now Middle Eastern. Am I going to get in trouble for that? I'm not. I guess he's an Indian. I'm not positive.
I don't know. I'd have to look it up. But you keep going racial, and I'll look it up.
Right. No matter what I say, it's going to be bad. Everybody it was a much more ethnic, diverse group, which I thought made sense. Because again, if you go to a typical high school in Queens, guess what you're going to see? It doesn't look like a typical high school in Ohio. So I thought it made sense.
It was a much more diverse cast because it's a much more diverse Queens,
right,
than it was even when we were growing up. So it made sense.
It made perfect sense for it to be a much more ethnically diverse cast. So yeah, people are going to go, oh, Mary Jane, she's not white and redheaded. It's not even so much that kind of makes me go, It's the fact that she was like the quirky, she's the cross between the Ali Sheedy character from Breakfast Club, and like Daria from Beavis and Butthead. Remember Daria from MTV?
Oh yeah, nah.
So we got that now. So I'm like, okay. I mean, I guess they're gonna set her up to be down the road. I don't know. But like I said, they just called her MJ, and I've heard mixed things, meaning that could mean something or it could just mean nothing. Look, we thought it was cute to say MJ and make everybody talk. Doesn't mean she's Mary Jane, so who knows?
I don't mind. I don't care if they change the ethnicity of Mary Jane as long as they get the character right for once.
But that's the thing. They might not. They might not get it. See, it's funny. This is kind of like this incarnation of Spider-Man to me reminds me of the post Casino Royale James Bond films. Because again, Casino Royale was supposed to be a reboot. And as a reboot, do you say to yourself, okay, does that mean we're not going back to the original books? Are we not going to get adventures from the books and the women, he gets married in one of the books. I guess we're not going to do that this time around. But anyway, the point being is that I don't know if this incarnation of Spider-Man is making any promises. I don't know that it's actually saying to us that, we're going to do MJ, we're going to do Gwen Stacy, we're going to do, we don't know. So they might turn around and give us a more appropriate Mary Jane Watson, or they might just say, here's MJ. Deal with it,
Yeah, that's exactly how they would say it.
It was funny too because there was, I think, even in the credits, Zendaya's character is much higher on the credit list than even Liz, which I thought was odd. And I felt she was, even in the end credits, I thought she was much more prominent. And based on that, I think that's the hint. Like, yeah, she was the one everybody talked about. They cast Zendaya as somebody. I didn't know who. I have no clue who Zendaya is.
I have no idea who Zendaya is either. But then again,
no idea. I mean, I'm assuming she's a singer or something. I don't know. But then Liz was the focal point of the film. He was the big she was the big romance,
which makes sense because Liz was the first boyfriend. Liz was the first girlfriend of Peter Parker in the comic books.
I was going to ask you that too. Like I thought so too, but I wasn't sure.
Liz Allen was his first girlfriend. Yes.
Is Gwen Stacy next?
If you're following the comic books, Gwen Stacy should be next. Will she be? I think that after the two Amazing Spider-Man movies, they're trying to distance themselves from that character a little bit. So I don't know. She should be next.
I hope that they don't panic so much about what prior films did and just do your own film and do what you think is right.
We'll see. I mean, if they waited until the sequel to introduce Harry Osborn, I'd be fine with that. I just hope that what they do is they introduce him and he's just Peter's friend. And there's no mention, no dad, nothing along those lines. Maybe some talk, but we don't meet Norman Osborn. Not yet. Okay, you already said this in the video, so I know what you're going to say. You really saw that twist coming, because I did not. I did not see that coming at all. Okay, I explained it in the video a little bit, so I'll try to see if I can make it a little more clear. Okay, even in the trailers, Toombs always mentioned, this is about family, this is about family. And, I guess they kind of, as the movie was progressing, they were trying to kind of make it seem like that he felt that the guys that he worked with were family. But then I saw the way that he was treating all of them, and it was like, I don't see them as family. They're just employees to him. Yeah. And in the beginning, the first time the Vulture picks Spider-Man up and drops him down, the Tinkerer makes a note of, your phone was ringing, your wife called looking for you. And I kind of felt like that was an odd line to throw out there. It's like, we haven't really met. Like if right after the beginning of the movie, they had taken, tombs, and they'd gone home to his wife and said, "Han, we just lost blah, 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 blah," and that's where the idea of making his little business came from, I wouldn't feel so bad about it. But as the movie was progressing, he kept referring to his family, but we never met this family. So I said, just the unfortunate years of watching movies led to the deduction of, okay, so there's got to be some kind of connection with the family. What is it going to wind up being? And it was literally during the scene where Peter and May were helping him. She was helping him get ready for the prom, showing him how to tie a tie through a YouTube video, which I thought was adorable, by the way.
Which was getting dangerously close to montage territory, but they didn't quite go there, so I was happy.
But just as she was driving up and she was giving him the last bit of advice, it just popped into my head. It's like Toombs is Liz's father. Just popped.
I did hear it said that some people said that he did mention his family enough that you were kind of waiting for the payoff.
Yeah,
that something about the family was gonna come. Like you at least see them or something.
Yeah.
So I get what you're saying, that they did telegraph it enough that you were expecting some sort of a payoff in that respect.
Mm-hmm. And that was the payoff. And I think it was a good move. I enjoyed the little twist. And I'm not trying to say, I'm the smartest man on the planet. I saw it coming before anybody else. That's not what I'm saying. I just, it's experience. It's, we have seen, between the two of us, we've seen tens of thousands of movies easily.
Yeah.
And, after a while, there is a certain rhythm that a movie has, and this was the rhythm of the movie that I saw, and it was the only logical explanation, and it's when it popped in my head.
Come on, Spider-Man. Don't mess with me. I'll kill you. Everybody you love.
I thought the finale was really good. I liked the first when they showed the airplane going into like stealth mode. It was the invisible plane.
Yeah.
All I could think of was the invisible car from Die Another Day, and I was like, but again, this one they did it right. I mean, they did it wasn't silly. I thought the whole plot, again, tying into the bigger Marvel universe, was pretty smart. I like that idea, and again, but it still didn't. Again, I like the fact that the stakes were not gigantic. There's no big blue laser beam headed to the sky, that kind of stuff. Peter's still fighting just sort of criminals, and I like that. And so here, again, it tied to bigger stakes, tied into the bigger Marvel universe, yet was still him just foiling a scheme, a plot.
A major crime. And one that he was even reluctant to do. He had said a couple of times, no, that's too much. Let's see what we can do here. In a weird way, Peter drove him to that crime.
Yes, yeah. And that is a theme in this movie too, that a lot of the problems Peter kind of causes or is a little instrumental in.
A little, yes.
Like even going back to that first scene where he foils the guy breaking into the car, and he's like, "This is my car, you jerk."
and Stan Lee cameo.
Yeah, the brilliant Stan Lee cameo. And then later on, of course, the ferry scene. Now again, I wouldn't say that you blame Peter for that, but it was kind of he's playing with fire. He's playing with bigger things here, and it causes almost a calamity. And so the dressing down he gets from Tony Stark is not wrong. He did. Had he left this alone, this wouldn't have happened. And you're in there. You're going to bust these guys all by yourself, and the weapons come out, and bad things happen. I did think it was odd. I love that scene, by the way, but I did think it was strange that if you notice, the laser does go straight down the center of the ferry.
Yeah, that was some good aim.
Right, but the thing just fell and just kind of went crazy, right? So there really was no reason for that. I mean, it even went up. If you watch the whole top, the mast going up the tall part, right up to the center, like you couldn't have planned that more perfectly. So I thought that was a little weird. But the theme of Peter kind of being this is above his head. He's in above his head. That is played out really well. And I thought it was really good. Again, I've always said that the first stories, and again, this is not an origin story. See, this was why this movie really was fabulous in terms of it was not an origin story, but it was still very much an introduction to Spider-Man, and it is still the kind of a story. And again, I've always said that I usually love the first superhero films because that's where you get that kind of Rocky Balboa story where they have to look deep down and figure out a way to overcome odds. And here you get that. You absolutely get that. I mean, and the whole point of he gets knocked down a couple of pegs because you screwed up. I'm taking the suit back. And what does he do? He still goes and he fights and he does what's right and wins back Tony's approval, the whole bit. I mean, and again, that scene where he's under the rubble, wow, was that tough. That was a tough scene to watch even because he's almost crying and this poor kid, and he's terrified and you really get that and it really worked. So yeah, I mean, again, this movie just had a lot of heart. It had heart and soul, and that's what I think it's not enough to just make a good comic book movie with comic book characters. You really have to put a heart and soul in it. Yeah. And, just making villains who want to take over the city or turn everyone into lizards or whatever. I mean, it's, you need something more than that. And this one does. I mean, you have a villain with very, very clear objectives and motivations, and it works. And I mean, again, you're not watering him down to make him all that sympathetic. No, he was a guy who was willing to do rough things, tough things to provide for his family, whatever. He was willing to cross certain lines. He was a villain. He's a villain you can understand, and it made sense. But he was still willing to cross a line and become a bad guy. And actually, that leads me to the other post-credit sequence, or the first post-credit, when he's in jail and he runs into the other guy who we know is basically the Scorpion. And the guy says, "We hear that you know who he is." And he says, "If I knew who he was, he'd be dead already." How did you interpret that?
Personal vengeance, maybe?
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's not respect. It certainly is not respect, if that's what you're wondering. I really think this was a case of, you know what? This guy screwed up my life. I sent my family away, whom I loved. I've lost everything. Now I'm in jail. Why should I give you the satisfaction of hurting him when I can?
He did have a pretty sinister look on his face, that's for sure. It's funny because I think the general theory is that Spider-Man spared his life, saved his daughter's life, so he was willing to just kind of leave it alone and look the other way. I thought there was some truth to that, but I also said, but his daughter is still also out there, and maybe he doesn't want to do anything until he's out and is sure that he can protect his family. Like, what if Spider-Man decides, what if he puts a hit on Spider-Man and Spider-Man says, "Yeah, well, I know where your family lives," or whatever. I mean, we know that's not how it's going to happen, but maybe he's not sure. So I had that in the back of my mind, too. I think your theory makes a little more sense.
Yeah, the man who sends his family away to spare them his trial loves his family. And his life is pretty much ruined. And his family is now shattered.
Yeah.
So, yeah, that's a man who's going to be a good boy in jail. And if and when the time comes, he's going to come back with a vengeance, which would fit in with the character of the Vulture anyway. So I'm completely down with that.
Yeah, I you know what? I'm with you. I think you're onto something there.
I hope so. It would be nice. It would be nice if a Spider villain actually showed up in a sequel. That was in a previous one. That's not the Green Goblin.
Agreed. Yeah, and you're right. and it's funny. Again, we always talk about why do the villains always have to die in the Spider-Man movies. I think this made sense. I liked the fact that he just got carted off to jail. I thought that was perfect.
Yep.
Wrapped up with a little Spider-Man style note. Love it.
Your perfect. Friendly neighborhood Spider-Man.
There you go.
Even Happy was happy.
Oh my God. That was great too. That part was interesting. First of all, you're right. Happy was awesome. He's such an underrated player in this, and he really is just a home run every time he's on screen. But the idea that he got brought up to Avengers headquarters and they were going to do this whole big thing, I didn't know. That surprised me too.
The fact that he was taking care of Avengers headquarters?
Well, when Happy went and collected him and brought him to the new headquarters, I really thought that was just for a good pat on the back, job well done, and I thought it was sort of going to end up with, and Peter, you know what, just so you know, we got a spot here waiting for you. Not just yet, but we got a spot for you, and, you know, we promise, you know, as long as everything goes fine, consider yourself like a honorary or, you know, semi-Avenger, whatever. The fact that they actually were going to make him an Avenger, I was like, all right, okay, I wasn't sure about that. First of all, I guess because Cap went his own way in Civil War, I guess Tony is really the head of the Avengers now, isn't he?
Yes, he is. And the Avengers is gutted, dude. Who are they left with? You've got a hardly functioning War Machine. You've got Vision. Black Widow is on the run. Black Panther wasn't necessarily on the team to begin with. He was out for vengeance. He's back in Wakanda. He's got his own movie coming out, which is going to look awesome. So who's left?
That's a good point. Was it Ant-Man was on the other side too, right? So he not even him?
Yep. You've got basically 3 players at best. You've got Iron Man, War Machine, and Vision.
Thor and Hulk are not even around.
Yeah.
We know that. So yeah, that's yeah, you're right. It's pretty much him and War Machine, and War Machine's limping around. I'm trying to remember who was even on that other side, really.
The team was the following. On Team Iron Man, you had Iron Man, War Machine, Vision, Black Panther, Black Widow, and Spider-Man. On Team Cap, you had Cap, Bucky, Hawkeye, Scarlet Witch, Ant-Man, and Falcon.
And Falcon, yeah, you're right. So, yeah, you're right. The Avengers are pretty... There's not much left.
Yeah, they're pretty gutted. Without Thor and Hulk, and even Black Widow said, you know, do you really think Banner would be on your side?
Yeah.
So there's no guarantee that Hulk would definitely join it.
Yeah.
And Black Panther, yeah, no, he's not an official part of the Avengers. He was just temporarily part of them, just for his own purposes to get Bucky.
Yeah.
So yeah, he's got nobody unless they start introducing more characters. Unless he got Doctor Strange or somebody, he's got really not a lot of people. And I think that having a PR thing saying, "Hey, look, we have a new hero on the team," would have been just the thing he was looking for and need.
Yeah, very true. Yeah, I thought that was pretty cool, and I love the whole idea. You know, this was a test, right? He's like, you got me, and then he leaves, and Pepper shows up and says, "What am I going to tell all these people?" First of all, I thought it was great when she showed up. Because, again, I thought she was long gone. I thought we were never going to see her in another movie again. So I liked that they brought her back, and I liked that they're patching things up, and that's good. You know, it's plus. Plus, I love that you saw the Iron Spider costume.
Yeah,
and I'll be honest, that was sort of... I mean, I read comics up until, I'm not sure when. The Iron Spider costume, I think, was probably a little after my time. That was kind of like Ultimate Spider-Man years or whatever.
Yeah.
But I had seen it, you know, and I've seen all these different incarnations of the Spider-Man costume that are pretty much after my time, I guess. And I'm like, geez, you know, whatever. So, but I thought the fact that they nailed that costume so well, just for that scene, was pretty cool, I thought.
Agreed.
So that was a nice little touch, too.
And he may still wear it yet. So his next appearance is Infinity War.
I mean, that's the thing. I mean, he's going to be in Infinity War, so we know he's around, so that's pretty cool. I tell you what, I just pray to God that Sony does not stick their fingers in and try to do something stupid like take them back or anything. I think we're pretty much, is it cast in stone now that we're going to get at least 3 Spider-Mans that the Marvels are going to do, plus Infinity Wars?
Yes.
We're going to get a full-blown Spider-Man trilogy plus Infinity Wars. That we know.
Yes, 100%.
Beyond that, we don't know, but at least we'll get that, so we're good.
And I'm quite okay with that.
Yeah, I am too. I'm looking forward. I'm definitely looking forward to the future of this franchise. Again, it's a non-conventional look at Spider-Man. It's there are parts of this that are definitely out of the norm of what we're used to, and it's funny too. You know, when I just said that I kind of stopped reading comics at a certain point was probably right when the movies started coming out. Maybe a little before that. But I think, like I said, I always talk about Secret Wars. I used to love Secret Wars. And probably a little beyond that was kind of where I stopped actually buying comics. And I find myself, like as I look at this Spider-Man and I compare it, I find myself comparing it more to the last few films. rather than the actual comics. I mean, I know Spider-Man enough from the comics to know what he's like and what should happen, but I find myself looking at the last on-screen incarnations as my comparison. And having said that, I think this one, super home run. I gave this one a 9, and I think the only reason I didn't give it a 10 is because I have a feeling they're going to get even better than this. Like I said, they had the luxury of just telling a Spider-Man story without having to do the origin. It was nice that they had that flexibility, and they used it to its fullest extent and came up with as far as I'm concerned, a home run. But again, and I like that this one was very grounded. Again, he's not swinging from the tallest skyscrapers. He's swinging from the shorter buildings over in Queens. And, this is and by the way, I love the parts where he's trying to run around in the suburbs, bouncing up the houses and just running through the golf course going, oh, this sucks. How great was that? I mean, you never saw that before.
Those brilliant little touches that just grounded it even more.
So I do think, like I said, I think it's going to get even better because he is going to reach great heights, I think. So that's why I kind of left it as just a 9. But I thought this film was just a home run in every way. So I really couldn't be happier with it. I frankly can't wait to see it again.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing it again myself. We have this tradition. There's a discount theater right down the block from where I live. We have this tradition that we'll always see it again there because my kid loves that theater.
Nice.
Yep. So I also gave it a 9. And honestly, for this one, I'm for the after segments, for your consideration and for Who Asked You, I want to keep them brief because I really don't have a lot more to say. I think we've said so much about the movie.
Yeah, agreed.
For my Who Asked You, and it's so slight, it's almost not worth mentioning. A friend of mine said, the product placement for Audi, and I was like, okay, yeah, I can see that. But honestly, to me, it was the marketing. I would have changed the marketing. I feel like, I feel like the marketing gave too much away. I feel like the marketing, that scene on the ferry should have been an amazing moment in that movie. The way that they edited it and put it together, if I didn't know that Tony was coming to save them, that would have been amazing. Like, just heart-wrenching and scary as hell.
Yes.
And I think that it got ruined by the marketing. So no. Less is more, ladies and gentlemen. You didn't have to go as far as you did. You did not have to show the resolution of that scene. You made it worse.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you wholeheartedly there. And again, it's funny. We went back and forth for months as the new trailers came out. Why they decided to sort of give us that one that early, bad move.
Agreed.
And even just the overdoing of the Iron Man in general. I mean, Iron Man there's whole scenes. Again, there's a scene of he and Spider-Man flying through the city that does not appear anywhere in the film.
Yep.
Why? I don't get that. Why in all the posters it's Iron Man and Spider-Man fighting the Vulture? Yeah. Why? It doesn't happen in the film.
You nailed it. You nailed it months ago when you said this may be the most Tony Stark that we see. And you know what? Maybe save for like a handful of scenes, it was mostly all we've seen of Tony Stark in all the trailers.
Yeah. I mean, and there was even parts, thankfully, they showed sort of out of order to kind of mislead a little bit, as to what that was. I really don't understand why that big emphasis on Iron Man. Again, I guess he's the safer bet at this point, but did anybody really have any doubts that Spider-Man, Marvel doing a Spider-Man movie was not going to be a home run? I mean, it's already doing gangbusters at the box office.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, I'm shocked that anybody really had any doubts that they thought that they had to push Iron Man to be the I don't know. I mean, again, we said a long time ago, Spider-Man and the Hulk were like Spider-Man is the biggest Marvel character. I think the Hulk is like second, and then you start to get into Captain America, Thor, and Iron Man. Did you ever think you'd see the day where Iron Man had to be the guy who they relied on to sell a Spider-Man movie?
We need Tony Stark to help Peter Parker.
I tell you what, I'll do mine, and like I said, the only thing that landed with a thud, I thought, was the MJ line. I thought it was really not necessary. Again, I guess we'll see if that plays out. I guess we'll see in the future if this build-up, this MJ reveal, if it leads to something good, okay. But again, I can't judge this film by future films I haven't seen yet.
Yes, very much so.
Here it was a dud. We've already seen the reveal thing. It was not clever. I'm really kind of wishy-washy on this character as being the potential new Mary Jane. So I don't know. Like I said, maybe they'll prove me wrong, and Marvel can do it. Again, I have faith. They've never steered me wrong yet.
Marvel's track record has been more consistent than not, so it's a worthy enough thing to be able to say, yeah, we'll hold our breath, just don't make us turn blue.
Exactly, right. So we'll see what happens with that. As of right now, I was not impressed with it.
Yeah.
But that's all I have to say. I really can't think of anything else in this film. The marketing, like you said, was a good one. Otherwise, home run.
And for your consideration, I'm going to say it, Tom Holland.
Boom. There you go. He was absolutely spectacular. I think another home run. You know, I tell you what, I saw him in an interview a while back, and I had no clue this kid wasn't even American. he speaks with a thick English accent, and I said I had no clue from watching this.
Yep.
So yeah, hats off to him. And again, loved Tobey Maguire, didn't love Andrew Garfield. But this was a great, fresh take on a young, fresh Spider-Man. Great idea, great casting. And again, I've never seen him in anything else, so I don't know where they found him, but good catch. Yeah, he was terrific.
Yeah, I can't complain about anything with regard to him. Good casting all around. Even the small secondary villains. Bokeem Woodburn as the second Shocker. He was fine. He was perfectly serviceable. Enough menace. Just what you needed. Mm-hmm. All told, yeah, easily a great film. It might be. I mean, we were talking earlier in the year about Logan being like our film of the year, and I'm sorry, Logan, you're not my favorite anymore.
Oh boy. Oh. Ah, wow. Okay. All right.
I'm sorry, dude. Spider-Man was damn good.
Yeah, I totally understand what you're saying. It's a different. See, again, Logan was a great drama, and again, but I had a hard time even then when we first reviewed Logan. I said it was a great film, but I have a hard time calling it a superhero film. Mm-hmm. This one is a great film, and I can safely call it a superhero film.
Yes,
definitely,
easily.
In every way. I loved how how do you get the Vulture right? But boy, do they do it. I mean, they got that right. They nailed Spider-Man. I mean, you could not have asked for more. For your consideration, I got to tell you, dude, I'm drawing a blank. I'm drawing a blank because everything was so just dead on. They again. The tone was perfect. I was smiling from ear to ear, honestly, throughout the entire movie. I don't think there was 5 minutes that went by that I wasn't giggling or smiling or whatever. There was never a slow moment.
Yeah.
Even the slowest parts, I guess, was like there's a scene of him and Aunt May going out to dinner, and it's just the two of them kind of just chit chatting, and I'm like, even that was great. Like, I mean, there really was no part of this that I thought wasn't great. I mean, I even love the part when remember when he's at the hotel in DC and the kids, and he runs into Liz and she's wearing a bathing suit, and he's like, oh my god, there's Liz standing there in a bathing suit, and he sees them all jumping into the pool, like, and he's kind of having this like moment where he's like, oh my god, I'd much rather be playing with them than going off to do this, whatever. Again, kind of a tough moment. You got to choose what's more important and what's the right thing to do here. But again, just such a great moment, great vibe. Everything was just so good.
Agreed. I just too much fun, and definitely looking forward to seeing it again. And I hope everybody that's listening gets a chance to see it soon.
That's it. And dude, we've had Logan, Guardians of the Galaxy 2, Wonder Woman, and now Spider-Man. 4 of the 6 superhero films out this year, all of them dynamite, really good.
But superheroes are getting long in the tooth. That's what people say. People are saying it's superhero fatigue.
Listen, I don't have it. I remember struggling a few podcasts ago to compare this to something else. What we have now, the current superhero phenomenon, particularly the Marvel films, this is not like any other franchise that's ever been out before. I think this is more like a whole genre, like back in the 50s when like Westerns was all the thing. Now it's superhero films, because again, it is honestly the modern day mythology. It's the modern equivalent to mythology and just adventure stories of before. I mean, if you think about it, comic books really were the last sort of bastion of fantastic stories. It's 2,000 Leagues Under the Sea and Tarzan, The Lone Ranger. Now, because we have technology, film-wise, and even in real life, has caught up, we can do a superhero film and make it look believable. Yeah. So it's a whole resurgence. I do not see it ending anytime soon. As long as they keep the quality up, as long as they keep you guessing just enough. And again, there's so many, think about how great this is. We talked the other week about the Black Panther trailer. Now, Black Panther, again, you want to talk about, D, E, F list characters. He was way down there too. Probably, I think I knew Doctor Strange better than I knew Black Panther. Mm-hmm. But they're able to take that. I mean, they're able to go into the archives of characters and do all of them. They can just keep on going. There's really no reason to ever end this train. Again, I remember talking about Phase 2, Phase 3. Now it's Phase 4, and it's just going to keep going, I think.
100%. I agree. And not to mention the fact that, I mean, one of the big things about it is the fact that comic book is just a medium. You could talk so many different genres within that medium. So why should it ever slow down?
I think the studio system in general should pay attention to how Marvel does their movies. It's not by committee the way it is at some other places. Now, I'm not saying that there aren't groups of people over there making decisions. That's true. However, I think you take a Kevin Feige who is passionate enough about the source material to be the George Washington and lead us, and call the shots and go from there and focus on story, focus on doing it right. I think there's a lot to be learned, as opposed to people saying that the superhero fatigue. There's actually a lot to be learned from these stories and the way that these films are being handled. I'll just say that.
Agreed. 100%. Wow. So, we talked a lot about this movie. I think we really liked it.
I think so too. But next week we'll be a little more down to earth when we have to talk about
more down.
Yeah. Next week we're going to talk about The Amazing Spider-Man. That is the next one in the Spider-Man franchise series that we are doing.
Do we really have to do that, Joe?
You think that's bad? Then we have Amazing Spider-Man 2. Just wait till you get me started on that one. And now we have another one to compare it to. I mean, we're going to sit there and say, in Spider-Man Homecoming, they do it right. But here, yeah, you're right.
Sorry, guys.
All right, my friend. I think that is it for this week.
All right.
I think we are Spider-Man'd out.
At least for this week.
All right, brother. I'll see you here next week. Thanks for listening to the Reviews Without Remorse podcast with Joe and Dave. Join us here every Thursday for a new episode. And be sure to check out the Reviews Without Remorse channel on YouTube and VidMe for spoiler-free reviews of new releases, as well as in-depth discussions of current and classic cinema. If you enjoy this podcast, please consider becoming a patron. You can find our page at patreon.com. As little as $1 a month goes a long way. All clips in this podcast are used for commentary and critique, and is considered fair use. No copyright infringement is intended.